Hi, welcome to our History and World Language Teaching Toolkit. We're students in the MAT program at Central Washington University, College of Education and Professional Studies. We've designed our website to assist educators in secondary classrooms in both history and social studies and world languages to develop responsive, engaging, and rigorous curriculum utilizing current technology and tools. We've taken a cross-disciplinary approach here, building on the connections between history and world languages as important cultivators of analytic and communicative skills in the current generation of young people. We feel strongly that these are disciplines which will help secondary students better understand their past and present, engage positively with local, regional, national, and international communities, and cultivate a strong sense of self-identity. And we'd like to just briefly introduce ourselves.
All right, so my name is Patrick Carpenter. I am certifying in Spanish and English language arts.
Hi there, my name is Ana Schaller de la Cova. My endorsement areas are social studies and French.
My name is Cristina Vargas, and I am endorsing in social studies and English.
All right, next Patrick will present the textbook section.
Alrighty, so under textbooks, of course, within the realms of social studies and world language, there is a lot to cover. So what we've done is we have found a couple of exemplary resources in our opinions, and we have highlighted some of the areas that make these resources good, that are really the successes of these resources, so that educators looking at this website can identify, hey, here are some of the places where my current curriculum package is doing really well. And here are some areas I may want to be looking for when I go to buy a new curriculum package or textbook. At the end of this page, we also have a large list of curriculum and other resources that are free for both world language and for history. So looking at our resources here, on the left side, we have world language examples, and on the right, we have history examples. Navigating through this, you'll see three sub-tabs in these. The first is just a lovely picture of our textbook or curriculum package. The second is a series of details. It'll tell you the series, publisher, subject, and recommended grade level for each of the textbooks that we are discussing here, or curriculum packages. And actually, these buttons here will take you to the website for those different resources. The final tab is the one that we put the work into, that we really, I think, shines. And this is where we talk about the strengths, particularly for the world language textbook. We point out things that may not be things that we are thinking about, specifically differentiation strategies for heritage speakers, things that are specific for heritage and native speakers of the language. We often don't think about them in the language classroom, and they are important components of a successful course. And under the French textbook example we have here, one of its strengths that I thought was amazing was virtual reality field trips. Looking over here at our history textbooks, we have one, which is an example of a textbook and a more straightforward website with some resources on different materials, lessons, and activities. Right here, the Zinn Education Project and the textbook, A People's History by Howard Zinn. And then we also have World History, which is a more comprehensive package. It has online resources, videos, assessment, the teacher's textbook and the student's textbooks are all linked together. There's a physical textbook and an e-textbook. There's just a lot going on. So depending on your approach to building your course, you may choose one over the other. The strengths, of course, of the second one are that it is just so comprehensive. Below are the online curriculum resources. A couple that I wasn't aware of before we started doing this project that I think are phenomenal are the PBS learning media. This includes resources that even extend to world languages, which quite surprised me. And the National Park Service, they have such great historical and contemporary resources, things that I may even use in my own language classroom. Going back to the top here, I will be passing it off to Cristina to discuss learning strategies.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm Cristina. I will be covering learning strategies. In developing the learning strategies that we would suggest, we wanted to look at our social studies and world language content area and apply it to a secondary grade level. And we also provide rationale for these recommendations. Learning strategies are specific actions the learners take to make learning more accessible, self-directed, effective, and transferable to new situations. And so keeping that in mind, we're starting with the jigsaw learning strategy. The reason we recommend this is that predominantly in the social studies setting, you will see that a lot of it is reading based, and sometimes students will struggle with that heavy, dense reading, as well as not be able to hit the mark for those concepts. So with this jigsaw, we're able to have students break into groups and work with each other to break up those readings and work to become proficient in what those concepts are, as well as exchange ideas. Next, we have our brainstorming learning strategy. This helps to have students work in a cooperative group by writing down a list of ideas related and assigned by the reading. And so this is just generally a way for the students to go through the reading, highlight what they feel is important, as well as provide context for what they believe the concepts are. And they're able to work as a group to promote each other and be more active readers. And so students are able to get through those difficult content heavy readings. Next, we have Diorama. This learning strategy is perfect for, again, those really heavy learning readings. With this, the teacher goes through and chooses most critical portions and has students go through them. As students go through them, they relate what they believe is the important concepts or important things to highlight through that reading. And so they're able to self-regulate and go through those readings and identify the differences and purposes associated with those readings, as well as differentiate concepts and our content standards. And underneath that, we have our references for this section. Next, we have our world language learning strategies. Starting off with self-regulated learning. This is a self-directed process. This is one that a lot of world language educators are more familiar with. This has students learning environments and transitioning their skills and knowledge by practicing through self-regulation, where they have control over their performance, as well as improving their skills through effective language exams. And so they're consistently assessed and shown where they need to show improvement in their proficiency. Next, we have social strategy. This learning strategy has students actively seeking opportunities to expose themselves. This is something familiar in world language. Students are able to self-regulate and hold each other accountable. Essentially, students will go back and forth in practicing the language in the classroom and helping to provide each other with support and understanding as they adapt to each other's language. And right below that, we have our references for this learning guide. Next, we'll be moving on to assessments by Patrick.
Alrighty, and it is me again. I'll be talking about our page on assessment strategies. So again, we're covering two different topics, and both of which are in the humanities, a challenging area to assess. Much of it is not just what you know, but how you apply it and the new things you discover, the new connections you make with that information. So keeping that in mind, what we've done is we have a bit of an overarching framework for looking at assessment strategies. First, we start out with the standards. What standards are we teaching to? How are we molding our curriculum and building our classrooms? For world language, for example, this is the ACTFL, American Council for the Teaching of Foreign Language Standards. These are the national, international gold standards for readiness in speaking a language. These center around the 5 Cs, aligning with the Washington State Standards: communication, culture, connections, comparisons, and communities. Beneath this standard page, we look at 3 different general categories of assessment. We have expressive and receptive, so speaking and listening. We have open-ended writing, and this isn't just short writing, essays, things like that. It goes a little bit farther beyond that. We also have project-based or investigation-based assessment. For each of these categories, and for both world language and history and social studies, we have a description of why these are helpful, as well as some ideas of what this kind of assessment can look like. So for world language, you go to expressive and receptive assessment, and you see that conversation is a vital loop at the heart of language. And then what can we do to assess that? We can do interviews, speeches, conversation exams, even something as what I think is fun as singing and recitation. Going over, you can click on the tab here for history and social studies. And again, we see the standards, the National Council for the Social Studies. This will take you to their website. And also for the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction for Washington, we have the standards for each of the subcategories of social studies. Looking down at open-ended writing, for example, we can see that in open-ended writing, it's a great way for educators to evaluate a student's ability to communicate in writing, to synthesize those ideas. Things like persuasive essays, opinion pieces, or reflective writing fall into those ideas for assessment. Next, I will be handing it off to Anna for UDL and differentiation strategies.
Thanks, Patrick. So the inspiration behind universal design approaches to learning, which is most often referred to as simply UDL, and differentiated learning, is the recognition that we need to be more inclusive, responsive, and equitable with regard to our very diverse groups of public school students. While these types of orientations can assist students with special needs and disabilities or English language learners, they're designed to be addressed toward the entire classroom of students with the principle in mind that these are changes that can benefit everyone. Now, the terms UDL and differentiated learning are sometimes used interchangeably, but are qualitatively different. We recommend a UDL approach, which is essentially a buffet of differentiated options that students may self-select from, rather than trying to offer different options for each student with each lesson. UDL options utilize a range of formats and media so that material is shared with students in a variety of ways, and then students can also respond or report back in a variety of ways. So in a history or world language classroom, incorporating UDL might mean things like interpersonal activities, shoulder buddies, think, pair, share, cooperative and collaborative learning projects, debates, interviews, role plays, and both small group and classroom-wide discussions. It also might mean utilizing visual medium like video and film, really incorporating a lot of charts and diagrams into lessons, providing infographics, graphic organizers, visual dictionaries for students, drawing in comics, flashcards, and utilizing timelines. Some examples of auditory activities that are particularly important in a world language classroom, but would be good for both subjects, include things like music and songs, verbal direction and repetition, read alouds, and vocabulary dictation. And then movement-based activities like gallery walks, hands-on activities, games, and field trips. Below are some further digital and print resources, including some TED Talk videos and links to podcasts that you may find helpful in learning about UDL and applying it to either your world language classroom or your social studies and history classroom. And then finally, we're going to hand it over to Christino to finish up with discussion of educational technologies.
Thank you, Anna. In choosing our specific EdTech tools, we wanted to select tools that would be best for our subject areas of social studies and language arts, and applying those to our student population, focusing on a secondary grade level. Starting off, we have Edpuzzle, one that a lot of social studies teachers are most likely familiar with. This platform or online tool allows teachers to edit videos to include comments, discussion questions, or exam questions. This provides teachers an opportunity to assign work through the videos as students go through these videos. They're able to answer these questions or discuss with their partners about what they viewed in the videos. And so these students are able to engage with the learning through the videos, and it's really accessible for students. And this connects also to our next tech tool, Canvas. Canvas is an online design and visual communication platform that a lot of educators are familiar with. I know my district uses this primarily to provide presentations, posters, and logos for classes. This tech tool is recommended based on its ease of access. It also provides a lot of different opportunities for scaffolding and media, as you can add different things to your presentation, such as QR codes, YouTube videos, as well as different kinds of pictures and images that help students engage better with the learning. As well, students are able to collaboratively work with each other on different projects while making it easily accessible for students to do those group works. Next, we have another familiar tech tool, Kahoot. This tech tool is a game-based learning platform where teachers can upload different questions that students can answer individually or as a class. This presents opportunities for students to work cooperatively or against each other, making it versatile for both teachers and students. Teachers can use this tech tool, particularly in social studies, with a lot of the heavy reading. It makes it easier to condense it into smaller bits for students to work and practice on. Next, we have TED Ed. This is similar to YouTube in that you're able to look up different videos based on your subject area. In this case, social studies, you're able to look up videos or TED Talks. They're focused on either the Civil War, American Revolution, or the 13 colonies, but more focused on educational videos rather than just random ones like YouTube, for example. Teachers have used this to create interactive lessons and build discussion forums for students to engage in as a class or in smaller groups. Next, we have our world language learning strategies. Starting off with Fluent U. This one's a relatively newer tech tool. This tech tool allows students to engage in world learning with real-world examples. A good example of this would be if I were teaching greetings, for examples, in the classroom. I would be able to look up different greetings, whether it's in Spanish, Chinese, Russian, whatever language I'm teaching, and they'd be able to present real-world greetings in different videos. And these videos range in interesting ways for students. They can include Disney videos, soap operas from different countries, or even Marvel. And so students are able to get those real-world examples, and they're more likely to engage with the learning as it provides different context for that language they're learning. Finally, we have YouTube. This is one that teachers are fairly familiar with, but in the world language, you're able to, again, look up real-world examples where students can engage with the different vocabulary and practice their abilities. It's valuable in providing language learning for students, and with more advanced students, they're able to perfect their skills by looking at further real-world examples. As well, it provides a UDL media for teachers to integrate into their curriculum. This has been the final presentation for our tech tool. This has been Christina.
And Patrick.
And Anna. Thanks for listening and watching.